What up, people? Coach V, New Breed Boxing. Loyalty in boxing. Loyalty in boxing is a two-way street. The fighter got to be loyal to the coach and vice versa. It's imperative if you want to reach the pinnacle of your potential to be loyal to your coach and that your coach is loyal to you. You can't do it alone. You can only get so far without a team. The coach is more than just these guys nowadays are like glorified water boys with motivational quotes. I see guys that have great fighters in their roster that are just mishandling them. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Like they just plugged in with the right promoters and they just got a pipeline. You know what I mean? And they're famous for nothing because they didn't improve any of these guys fundamentally, tactically, strategically. There's only a couple of guys left, I think, in this game that are real masters of the sport, and nobody knows everything. I see so many guys sit back and criticize, oh, you can't do this, you can. There's different ways to do everything. I know some guys that break all the fucking rules and they still pull out the win. So if you're just, some of these guys out there, like, they like dating experts that never get laid. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, you on the outside looking in. You're not really in the field. Like, the fighter's on the front line, he's in harm's way. His coach's job is like providing overwatch when a guy's on a mission. He got the aerial view. He should be seeing things that the fighter can't see to make the fight easier. To try to, instruct him technically to what's the smartest, easiest plan of action, tactically and strategically. And then, if necessary, give him a little pep talk on the end and send him on his way back out there. And every time he comes back in between rounds, he should have a refreshed vision on what's going on. Whether it's to tell you, yo, you're doing good, just keep doing what you're doing, but give him the technical advice. Whatever he's doing technically that's working, remind him of that. Don't just say you're doing good. Give him, just listen, man. You're landing that jab up to the body real good. Start bringing some power shots up top after that. Whatever the case may be, you know what I'm saying? And then, give him a little pep talk on the way out. Like, yo, get that motherfucker. Let's go. You know what I mean? That's the job of a coach, a good coach, And I'm gonna tell you this: coaches aren't the Zen master at the top of the mountain, the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. We learn from the fighters too. The coach should be learning how you operate as a fighter, and over time as a coach, you work with so many people. You learn, little things, what make people tick and what brings out the best in people and what does and what doesn't work. You know what I mean? Being a coach is a lot more than, like I said, just giving somebody some water. I've been in situations where dudes are trying to change the gloves at the last minute, start arguments while you're getting ready to warm up, just start coming with like, oh, the hands aren't wrapped right or whatever, just trying to throw you off your game, bring negative energy. I've seen it all. I've seen a lot of funny stuff that goes on before the fight. Then you got the stuff during the fight. You got the referees playing games. Sometimes they have favoritism. Whoever the promoted fighter is, if you're not that guy. Then you got the judges on the scorecards. There's a lot of political stuff that goes on behind the scenes that a real coach, only through experience, can deal with. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things going on to sabotage a fighter that's on the B side. It's crazy. It's like the guy's already at a disadvantage, and then they just playing all kind of games behind the scenes. And I've seen guys, that's the beauty about boxing, man. They can stack all the odds up against you. Sometimes it's just your time. I love that. There's nothing better than going up against, what's perceived to be a superior threat, a superior opponent, and pulling an upset. That's the biggest. The underdog story is the most amazing, beautiful, glamorous aspect of the sport of boxing. It's a horrible, cruel world, but when you see that underdog pull up and pull that upset, and then put his hands up at the end of the fight like, yo, take that. You're looking at the referees that probably had you losing on the scorecards, whether you were really losing or not. And you can look them in your face and be like, shh, sorry, Charlie, not today. You ain't robbing me. You know what I mean? It's a great feeling, and you always have that X factor, that that variable that you can, you still got to punch his chance. You still got to win his chance. Just because, I've worked with guys on the B side and turned their whole career around before, and it's a great feeling when you see a guy that is just on the verge of getting to his ultimate, version of himself, but he just needed that one missing piece to the puzzle to kind of, just reassure him and, shape him up a little bit, dial him in a little bit sharper, and get the best out of him and send him on his mission. You know what I'm saying? And that's really what it comes down to, man. You know what I'm saying? So when you got a good fighter, you see him slipping, you got to do your best. I mean, you can't save somebody from themselves. Some guys, they're just gonna make certain mistakes, and there's no way around it. When you're dealing with fighters, and some coaches, man, like I said, man, sometimes they think they know it all. Just because you're a coach, like I said, doesn't mean you can't learn something from your fighter. You gotta have, you have two ears and one mouth for a reason. Sometimes you gotta do less talking and more listening to see what the proper, you're like a politician, you're like a general, you're like a doctor. You gotta give the right prescription with the right dosage of information, and at the end of the day, when you're fortunate enough to have that good chemistry, sky's the limit. So you find yourself a good coach for you fighters, stick with them, man. Don't jump around, because I'm gonna tell you another thing. Me personally, and 99% of the real coaches out there, they don't play that disloyalty shit. You're not gonna go train with somebody else. I mean, listen, if you with a guy that he can only take you to level from A, B, and C, and that's it, that you reach the full, spectrum of his knowledge, and he can't take you any farther than that, then you got to go find a guy that can take you from, D on. But, and I know coaches too that, I know a couple great coaches. One of my friends, man, he handed off a stud, great fighter, man, to a guy. He took him through the amateurs, and he brought him, he won the Golden Gloves in New York, and then he handed him off to another coach that, he was more suited for the pro game. And, he did it, yeah, I was like, that was a very noble thing, because a lot of guys would have been like, nah, I spent all this time with this guy from a little kid, and now you're going to get all the glory when he rides off into the sunset and becomes a world champion. But, that guy was being selfless, and, and on the flip side, how many times do you see a fighter be with a coach from freaking 7 years old to becoming a professional world champion, win for 10, 15 years straight, takes his first loss, and then fires his coach and hires some guy he never met from a can of paint? You know what I'm saying? Boxing's crazy, man. That's why a lot of guys don't want to do this on both sides anymore. It's very hard to deal with that. Imagine putting all those years into a fighter. You know how many guys I know that trained a fighter from when they were like 7 years old, 6, 7 years old, ride it out with them until they're in their late 20s or even later, and one fight goes left, and they like, I'm off this. It's crazy, man. So, like I said, when you get that right chemistry with that right person on both sides, man, make sure you stay loyal to each other. You're gonna have trials and tribulations. You're gonna get tested, but that's what separates the men from the boys. And like I say, the champs from the one-hit wonders, man. Hope you found this informative. Like, subscribe, comment. Go check out my Instagram, coach.v_. Till the next time, we out. Out.